The great Battle of Gettysburg is now an event of the past. The composition and strength of the armies, their leaders, the strategy, the tactics, the result of that field are today, by the side of those of Waterloo, matters of history. A few days ago, these things were otherwise. This great event did not so cast its shadow before as to moderate the hot sunshine that streamed upon our preceding march, or to relieve our minds of all apprehension of the result of the second great rebel invasion, of the result of the second great rebel invasion of the soil north of the Potomac. No, not many days since. At times we were filled with fears and forebodings. The people of the country, I suppose, shared the anxieties of the army, somewhat in common with us, but they could not have felt them as keenly as we did. We were upon the immediate theater of events as they occurred from day to day, and were of them. We were the army whose province it should be to meet this invasion and repel it. On us was the immediate responsibility for results, most momentous for good or ill, as yet in the future. And so, in addition to the solicitude of all good patriots, we felt that our own honor as men and as an army, as well as the safety of the capital and the country, were at stake. And what if that invasion should be successful, and in the coming battle, the Army of the Potomac should be overpowered? Would it not be? When our army was much larger than at present, had rested all winter, and, nearly perfect in all its departments and arrangements, was the most splendid army this continent ever saw, only a part of the rebel force, which it now had to contend with, had defeated it, its leader, rather, at Chancellorsville. Now the rebel had his whole force assembled. He was flushed with recent victory, was arrogant in his career of unopposed invasion at a favorable season of the year. His daring plans, made by no unskilled head, to transfer the war from his own to his enemy's ground, were being successful. He had gone a day's march from his front before Hooker moved or was aware of his departure. Then, I believe, the army in general, both officers and men, had no confidence in Hooker, in either his honesty or ability. Did they not charge him personally with the defeat at Chancellorsville? Were they not still burning with indignation against him for that disgrace? And now, again, under his leadership, they were marching against the enemy, and they knew of nothing, short of the providence of God, that could or would remove him. For many reasons during the marches prior to the battle, we were anxious and at times heavy at heart, but the Army of the Potomac was no band of schoolgirls. They were not the men likely to be crushed or utterly discouraged by any new circumstances in which they might find themselves placed. They had lost some battles. They had gained some. They knew what defeat was and what was victory. But here is the greatest praise that I can bestow upon them, or upon any army. With the elation of victory or the depression of defeat, amidst the hardest toils of the campaign, under unwelcome leadership at all times and under all circumstances, they were a reliable army still. The Army of the Potomac would do as it was told, always. Well clothed and well fed, there never could be any ground for complaint on these heads, but a mighty work was before them. Onward they moved. Night and day were blended. Over many a weary mile, through dust and through mud, in the broiling sunshine, in the flooding rain, over steeps, through defiles, across rivers, over last year's battlefields, where the skeletons of our dead brethren, by hundreds, lay bare and bleaching, weary, without sleep for days, tormented with the newspapers and their rumors that the enemy was in Philadelphia, in Baltimore, in all places where he was not, yet these men could still be relied upon. I believe when the day of conflict should come. We did not then know this. I mention them now that you may see that in those times we had several matters to think about and to do that were not as pleasant as sleeping upon a bank of violets in the shade. In moving from near Falmouth, Virginia, the army was formed in several columns and took several roads. The Second Corps, the rear of the whole, was the last to move, and left Falmouth at daybreak on the 15th of June, and pursued its march through Aquia, Dumfries, Wolf Run Shoals, Centerville, Gainesville, Thoroughfare Gap. This last we left on the 25th, marching back to Haymarket, where we had a skirmish with the cavalry and horse artillery of the enemy, Gum Spring, crossing the Potomac at Edwards Ferry, thence through Poolesville, Frederick, Liberty, and Uniontown. We marched from near Frederick to Uniontown. A distance of 32 miles from 8 o'clock a.m. to 9 p.m. on the 28th, and I think this is the longest march accomplished in so short a time by a corps during the war. On the 28th, while we were near this latter place, we breathed a full breath of joy and of hope. The providence of God had been with us. We ought not to have doubted it. General Meade commanded the Army of the Potomac. Not a favorable time, one would be apt to suppose, to change the general of a large army on the eve of battle, the result of which might be to destroy the government and country. But it should have been done long before. At all events, any change could not have been for the worse, and the administration therefore hazarded little in making it now. From this moment, my own mind was easy concerning results. I now felt that we had a clear-headed, honest soldier to command the army who would do his best always, that there would be no repetition of Chancellorsville. Meade was not as much known in the army as many of the other corps commanders, but the officers who knew all thought highly of him. A man of great modesty, with none of those qualities which are noisy and assuming and hankering for cheap newspaper fame, not at all of the gallant Sickles stamp. I happen to know much of General Meade. He and General Gibbon had always been very intimate, and I had seen much of him. I think my own notions concerning General Meade at this time were shared quite generally by the Army. At all events, all who knew him shared them. By this time, by reports that were not mere rumors, we began to hear frequently of the enemy and of his proximity. His cavalry was all about us, making little raids here and there, capturing now and then a few of our wagons and stealing a good many horses, but doing us really the least amount possible of harm, for we were not by these means impeded at all, and his cavalry gave no information at all to Lee that he could rely upon of the movements of the Army of the Potomac. The infantry of the enemy was at this time in the neighborhood of Hagerstown, Chambersburg, and some had been at Gettysburg, possibly were there now. Gettysburg was a point of strategic importance, a great many roads, some 10 or 12 at least concentrating there, so the army could easily converge to, or should a further march be necessary, diverge from this point. General Meade, therefore, resolved to try to seize Gettysburg, and accordingly gave the necessary orders for the concentration of his different columns there. Under the new auspices, the army brightened and moved on with a more elastic step towards the yet undefined field of conflict. The First Corps, General Reynolds already having the advance, was ordered to push forward rapidly and take and hold the town if he could. The rest of the army would assemble to his support. Beaufort's cavalry cooperated with this corps, and on the morning of the 1st of July found the enemy near Gettysburg and to the west, and promptly engaged him. The First Corps, having bivouacked the night before south of the town, came up rapidly to Beaufort's support, and immediately a sharp battle was opened with the advance of the enemy. The 1st Division General Wadsworth was the first of the infantry to become engaged, but the other two, commanded respectively by Generals Robinson and Doubleday, were close at hand and forming the line of battle to the west and northwest of the town, at a mean distance of about a mile away. The battle continued for some hours, with various success, which was on the whole with us, until near noon. At this time a lull occurred, which was occupied by both sides in supervising and re-establishing the hastily formed lines of the morning. New divisions of the enemy were constantly arriving and taking up positions, for this purpose marching in upon the various roads that terminate at the town, from the west and north. The position of the First Corps was then becoming perilous in the extreme, but it was improved a little before noon by the arrival upon the field of two divisions of the 11th Corps, Gene Howard. These divisions commanded respectively by Generals Schurz and Barlow, who by order posted there. Commands to the right of the First Corps, with their right retired, forming an angle with the line of the First Corps. Between 3 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the enemy, now in overwhelming force, resumed the battle with spirit. The portion of the 11th Corps making but feeble opposition to the advancing enemy soon began to fall back. Back in disorganized masses, they fled into the town, hotly pursued, and in lanes, in barns, in yards and cellars, throwing away their arms, they sought to hide like rabbits and were there captured, unresisting, by hundreds. The 1st Corps, deprived of this support, if support it could be called, outflanked upon either hand and engaged in front, was compelled to yield the field, making its last stand upon what is called Seminary Ridge. Not far from the town, it fell back in considerable confusion through the southwest part of the town, making brave resistance, however, but with considerable loss. The enemy did not see fit to follow or to attempt to further than the town, and so the fight of the 1st of July closed here. I suppose our losses during the day would exceed 4,000, of whom a large number were prisoners. Such usually is the kind of loss sustained by the 11th Corps. You will remember that the old Iron Brigade is in the 1st Corps and consequently shared this fight, and I hear their conduct praised on all hands. In the 2nd Wisconsin, Colonel Fairchild lost his left arm. Lieutenant Colonel Stevens was mortally wounded, and Major Mansfield was wounded. Lieutenant Colonel Callis of the 7th Wisconsin and Lieutenant Colonel Dudley of the 19th Ind were badly, dangerously wounded, the latter by the loss of his right leg above the knee. I saw John Burns, the only citizen of Gettysburg who fought in the battle, and I asked him what troops he fought with. He said, "Oh, I pitched in with them Wisconsin fellers." I asked what sort of men they were, and he answered, "They fit terribly. The rebels couldn't make anything of them fellers, and so the brave compliment the brave." This man was touched by 3 bullets from the enemy, but not seriously wounded. But the loss of the enemy today was severe also, probably in killed and wounded as heavy as our own, but not so great in prisoners. Of these latter, the Iron Brigade captured almost an entire Mississippi Brigade, however. Of the events so far, of the 1st of July, I do not speak from personal knowledge. I shall now tell my introduction to these events,